Having explored Morocco, Corsica, Sardinia and Greece, the Tortoises of the World team is now taking you to Slovenia. As well as being an incredibly beautiful country, Slovenia hosts a remarkable fauna of reptiles and amphibians. No less than 19 species of amphibians and 21 species of reptiles live there. So let's go and discover these animals together. Our journey will notably take us underground to meet a legendary amphibian, the White Olm. The Republic of Slovenia covers just over 20,000 square kilometres and lies in Central Europe. Sharing borders with the Adriatic Sea, Italy, Austria, Hungary and Croatia, this country is often referred to as Europe's green gem. Slovenia hosts large areas of exceptionally rich natural landscapes, which range from Mount Triglav, reaching an altitude of 2,864 metres in the north, to the Adriatic coast further down to the south. The first stage of our journey takes us to the heart of a lush green valley, through which runs a river of cool and crystalline water. This wide river, named Dragonia, acts as a natural border with Slovenia's neighbour, Croatia. By following a small path, we explore these fertile food-producing lands. Vegetable crops, vineyards, or traditional beehives stand alongside unspoiled countryside, which remains that way thanks to sustainable agricultural practices. The fields here are bordered by dry stone walls, which constitute favourable microhabitats for amphibians and reptiles. What catches our attention, though, is an abandoned house, as a large number of Italian wall lizards are busying themselves across its dry stone walls. In these early hours of the morning, the air is still cool, and a male Italian wall lizard is basking in the sun. This female is doing just the same, with her swollen abdomen giving away the presence of eggs, which will soon come to maturity. This sturdily built male has a large head and apple green colouring, which is brighter than that of the female. His beaded skin is marbled with black. The lizards are on the move. They're off to look for something nice to eat. A male, who is probably more agile than the others, has just caught a newly metamorphosed dragonfly. Although the wings are still soft, they are proving hard work for the saurian. Our presence is bothering him, so off he goes to finish his meal in a neighbouring thicket. Not far away, some common wall lizards have taken up residence on a scree by the side of the path. A gestating female is soaking up the sun, imitated by a male, who has flattened his body in order to take in as much heat as possible. In this species, the female's skin is usually a dull light brown colour. The bigger-bodied males, however, are much more striking in colour. The male's underside takes on bright hues, ranging from blue to red through to black. Some specimens are regularly parasitised, as is the case with this one, who has ticks implanted in the joint of its right front leg. However, a common wall lizard must remain permanently alert, as danger can appear from anywhere, be it the sky above or the ground beneath it. One such formidable predator is the western whip snake. In fact, they share the same habitat, and this snake is particularly partial to lizards. Young western whip snakes usually have a greyish skin colour, becoming black with yellow flecks at adulthood, except in some parts of Europe, such as Slovenia, where some specimens are melanic, meaning that they are entirely black. This snake is usually found under hedges or in dry stone walls, but it's also possible to come across one out in the open, such as here on a dirt path. This magnificent snake, which can grow up to 1.70 m in length, is known for its feisty temper. Should it be disturbed in any way, it will escape rapidly by slithering along the ground and by pushing its body against any uneven surface. Although its bite is painful, it is not dangerous for humans. For lizards, though, this snake constitutes a real threat. Even the green lizard, which is significantly bigger than the common wall lizard, is wary of it. A short lapse of attention could mean that it too will end up in the stomach of the worrisome black snake. For the time being, though, the green lizard has other things on its mind, as it is mating season. Males differ from their female counterparts in that they have a larger body and a metal blue throat. In order to reach its goal, this male lizard will have to be very patient. He will stay for days on end by the side of his beloved, wooing her both delicately and obstinately. Sometimes the female gets so fed up by such insistent behaviour that she suddenly runs away from her suitor, who will never give up trying to seduce her. A few weeks after mating, the female lizard will isolate herself and spend her time regulating her body temperature in order to help her eggs develop. She is easy to recognise. Her colouring is duller, her head narrower, and she has a slightly bluish throat. Further along, our attention is drawn to a flooded area where poplars, yellow water irises and reeds grow. It looks like it could well be an attractive place for amphibians. And indeed, by night time, the intense singing of frogs can be heard. This spot, which remains quiet during the daytime, starts buzzing with life at nightfall. It's party time for the common tree frogs. Hearing them singing their songs, it's evident they had all prearranged this get-together on the boggy improvised stage. The suction cups on the extremity of each of their fingers enable them to take up any position, whether balancing in the small trees hanging over the water or gripping the tender iris leaves. Some males, who are less inclined to acrobatics, manage to rest on the surface of the water by hanging on to half-floating leaves. The common tree frog, which grows up to 5 centimetres in length, is recognisable for its apple-green back and a black line along its flanks. Its big, bulging eyes are a great asset when hunting, helping him detect insects to feed off. The next day's prospects are full of promise. We follow the Dragonia River upstream, looking for the Greek pond terrapin, the only tortoise-like animal living in Slovenia. On the way, we encounter a superb grass snake standing guard along the river bank. This long, harmless snake can measure up to 1.40 m in length. Its skin is of a metallic grey colour with black and light blue flecks. Its most noticeable feature is a double-lined black and yellow ring around its neck, which is particularly pronounced amongst the young, but fades with age. This snake mostly feeds off frogs and fish, which it hunts for with great agility. It is shooting its tongue out actively, as if to better preempt any potential danger. Our presence is clearly bothering it, so the snake decides to take to the water by crossing the river, always holding its head out of the water. After a short break, halfway across the river, it sets off again, anxious to get to safety quickly. Too many of its kind have unfairly come to an early death through encountering humans. There's no doubt about the fact that the Dragonian River Valley is teeming with a variety of species of reptiles and amphibians, but we haven't yet found any turtles living in the river. Nevertheless, we are not ready to give up and decide to take our exploration to the coastal salt marshes. A multitude of shallow canals run across this marshland, and these are lined with reeds and filled with underwater aquatic plants. We catch sight of a water snake hunting for food in the clear water of one of these canals. This is a dice snake. Lying still amongst the filamentous green algae, her attention is focused on the comings and goings of a school of fry fish. The snake moves slowly, but stops often, as if to better assess the distance to get to its prey. Then, having folded back its neck in the shape of an S, with a sudden movement, it straightens out abruptly into the cloud of oblivious small fish. Missed! The small fry have succeeded in defying Lady Dice's lunch plans. But the latter has other tricks up her sleeve. She will soon come back, tiptoeing on the tip of her scales, and will attack again when no one is expecting it. For the time being, though, having popped up for a deep breath of fresh air, the frustrated hunter disappears instantly amidst the stream's bustling waters. But the canals running through the salt marshes are yet to reveal all of their secrets. We finally meet our first Hellenic pond turtle in these waters. The most intrepid ones are lounging along the banks, whereas the more timid ones choose to remain hidden amongst the aquatic plants. Here and there, heads break the surface of the water, but disappear at the first sign of any danger, as they dive back down to the muddy floor. With the arrival of spring, the male reptiles of all species feel the urge to mate in order to ensure the survival of their breed. The Hellenic pond turtle also engages in this erotic scenario, as is seen here with this male mounting his beloved. He is able to hold on to the female's carapace thanks to his sharp claws, and with violent head movements he tries to keep his sweetheart still in order to facilitate intercourse. A few weeks after mating, the female will lay her eggs in a nest that she will have dug out in the ground. When it no longer feels safe in water, a Hellenic pond turtle, which is also very agile on the ground, will not hesitate to go and seek protection in the dense bulrushes. This turtle, that is no bigger than 20 centimetres long at adulthood, is typically black with bright yellow flecks or streaks. Its head, notably that of the female, is dotted with large yellow blotches. Males are distinct in that they have a reddish iris and their colouring is duller. Their horny and sharp beak means they are able to cut up their prey easily, with the help of their powerful legs, which are topped with strong and prominent claws. Further along, a young turtle displays typical colourings for its species, a black base flecked with yellow. After one last glance at these carapaced reptiles, who are resisting as best they can in the face of increasingly oppressive human encroachment, we leave southern Slovenia and head for the town of Postonia. We stop off along the way in the forest of Scadancina to take a look at an interesting little lizard. Made up of high conifer trees, the forested patches are surrounded by old dry stone walls, which provide wild reptiles with a multitude of hiding places. We are keen to meet one species in particular, the Dalmatian algiroid. We catch sight of a pretty female, recognisable by her dull colouring, resting in full sunlight. She is staring at us out of the corner of her eye. Her body is covered in strongly keeled scales. Another female, lying so as to absorb the sunlight, looks unable to cope with the fact that her caudal appendage is missing. Did she lose it as a result of the repeated assaults of a suitor, or in a predator's aborted attack? One can only wonder. Whereas the females are of a dull colouring, the males, especially during mating season, adorn themselves with a scintillating attire. Their underbelly has an orange to reddish sheen, and their throat is metallic blue. The Dalmatian algiroid is common in all the countries along the Adriatic coast. It can grow up to 20 centimetres in length. In Slovenia, this species is only found in the western half of the country, where it inhabits areas of amassed boulders, cliff sides and screes. It spends its time either hunting for insects or lying flat to take in the heat of the sun. And when the rock surface becomes too hot, this clever little saurian regularly lifts its hind legs, thus avoiding any risk of overheating. But now we're back on track for the third stage of our journey, which takes us to the entrance to the town of Postonia. We have agreed to meet up in 2 days' time with specialists of the country's most iconic animal, the White Olm. The town of Postonia has approximately 12,000 inhabitants. It is located in a valley covered in large mixed forests made up of conifers and hardwood. Whilst exploring in a field not far from Postonia, we surprise an Aesculapian snake lying in the dank morning grass and taking in the heat of the sun. Aesculapian snakes can grow up to 1.60 meters in length. Their colouring is light brown with a yellowish underside. Their body is usually mottled with white flecks. This snake can be found more or less anywhere in Slovenia, particularly in low altitude areas, albeit woodland, meadows or by the edge of forests. This species is particularly at ease in trees and capable of remarkable acrobatic prowess. The agility with which it is able to pass from branch to branch is quite baffling. It is harmless to human beings and hunts for small birds and their eggs up in the trees. It will not turn up its nose at field mice and voles though, which it kills by constriction. Lizards are another of its favourite prey, so the slow worm we meet not far off had better be on its guard. Enjoying the generous sunshine, the slow worm is laying out its long body at the edge of a hardwood forest. With its smooth and shiny dorsal scales, and a colouring ranging from light brown to copper brown, this reptile can grow up to 57 centimetres long. Its tail is as long as its body, but often breaks off in a predator's mouth or claws. This ability for a reptile to lose its tail, or self-amputate, is known as autotomy by scientists. The head of this adult male is very large, armed with powerful jaws, which serve him to catch his favourite prey, earthworms and snails. His tongue is short and wide, and allows him to pick up on all the odorous particles around him. These particles will provide precious information about the presence of any potential prey or predator. The slow worm is one of the most common species sighted during fieldwork in Slovenia. Although it might not look like it, the slow worm is not a snake, but a lizard with no legs. This is probably a poor joke on the part of evolution, as many human beings kill it, thinking they are faced with a viper. Further along, we come across the aptly named smooth snake. This average-sized snake can reach up to 90 centimetres in length. Its head is only slightly distinct from its body. Its scales are smooth and shiny, and the colour of its back ranges from grey to reddish-brown or copper. Its back is lined with 2 rows of black dots of varying visibility, and the top of its head sports a large black mark. A dark band starts out from the nostril and runs to the corners of its mouth. Its eyes and pupils are round. This species lives across a vast geographic range in Europe. Its favourite habitats are rocky environments, although it also enjoys forest edges. Its diet is primarily made up of lizards, but also includes voles, field mice, shrews, insects, as well as other species of young snakes. Discretion is very much a way of life for smooth snakes, and getting to see one can be tricky. The fact that an uneducated eye may mistake them for vipers means they are given an incredibly hard time, and many smooth snakes are killed out of ignorance. For all that, his patience has its limits, so he soon disappears to find his very secret hiding place. Our curiosity now takes us to the banks of a large lake surrounded by mountains and forest. Around the lake, vast shallow marshlands guide our steps. The sumptuous landscape and the habitats that make it up have filled us with excitement and expectations. We are hoping that our reptilian and amphibian friends will be there to meet us. And it is not long before our expectations are fulfilled. Sitting atop a tree trunk, out in the open, a sand lizard captures our attention. This adult female is making the most of the sun's heat to thermoregulate very diligently. Her generous silhouette clearly indicates that she is carrying a large number of eggs under her tight skin. Sand lizards, which are of a stocky build, can grow up to 24 centimetres in length. Females are entirely brown, whereas males are adorned with a scintillating green coat. These lizards live in open spaces, although they have plenty of hiding places should they need to beat a hasty retreat. This species has numerous predators, with snakes being their worst enemy, such as this adder basking in the sun. The snake has intentionally flattened its body in order to attract a maximum of heat. Its tongue sliding in and out at a fast pace, however, indicates that this young viper is fully alert. Adders, which can reach up to 1 metre in length in some Nordic countries, are to be found in low-lying plains and in mountainous areas up to an altitude of 2,700 metres. Although they are venomous snakes, an adder's bite is not normally lethal for human beings. However, its venom is very efficient when hunting for its usual prey, such as rodents, lizards, and frogs. We finally decide to wait for nightfall in order to catch sightings of amphibians in action across the promising damp and shallow marshes surrounding the lake. Our nighttime prospecting kicks off with sightings of dozens of green frogs singing at the top of their voices. Many males are strategically located in shallow areas. The frogs are holding on to floating vegetation, stretching out their long muscular legs as far as they can in order to maintain a perfect balance, albeit a precarious one. These are the first signs that the mating season is not far off for these frogs, and the males, who are always seeking to establish their sexual dominance as early as possible, are straining their vocal cords. Only later on, when spring is in full swing, will the females succumb to their suitors' sweet serenades. For the time being, though, the rehearsals are going well. Despite being called green frogs, here we can see just how varied the colouring of these frogs can be, even though they all belong to the same population. Light green, dark green, or even brown with a green line running along its back. Male green frogs will do everything possible to achieve their goal: seduce a pretty female with fine long legs. We leave the lakeside and are now entering the surrounding woods. It's a warm night. The temperature is neither too hot nor too cold. Just what's needed for brown frogs and salamanders to deign to venture out onto the forest litter. Here we see our first agile frog, sitting on a bed of moss, its fluttering nostrils betraying its fast breathing. It watches us, wearing a slightly surprised expression. Agile frogs are of an average size and grow to a maximum length of 6.5 centimetres. A distinctive feature of theirs is a long and slightly rounded, protruding snout. Their big, round eyes are made up of an oval pupil and of an iris which shines golden or silver for the top half, but turns dark on the bottom half. The frog's dark temporal mask is clearly defined, especially past the eye. Its circular eardrum is very large. The smooth skin on its back is gingery or greyish brown, varying in shade and speckled with brown. The colouring of its underside ranges from pearly white to pink, but is usually even. Agile frogs are first and foremost a terrestrial species, which only take to the water during the reproduction season in order to mate and to deposit their eggs. Their key defence tactic lies in their ability to bounce off promptly and disappear as if by magic. These are sporting skills that would make the greatest long jump champion ever turn green with envy. In Slovenia, agile frogs are present in all wooded areas, which constitute a habitat particularly favourable to their existence. Observing them in the field, though, is not easy, as their colouring enables them to blend in with the dead leaves covering the forest ground. The next morning we are drawn towards a beautiful river snaking its way through a narrow valley. The meadow running alongside has some waterlogged areas which host the common toad tadpoles. Based on this promising find, we decide to go back there at night in order to get some footage of the adults. And indeed, the toads do show up in this shallow basin. The males are standing tall on their extended legs, showing off and proudly exhibiting the extent of their power to the entire pond. Competition is fierce here, though, and when one is lucky enough to find love, one holds on to it with fierce obstinacy. A male climbs onto a female's back and manages to stay put by digging his fists into her underarms. When the female starts to expel her first eggs, the male takes on the role of a midwife for the occasion and helps his partner with the painful exercise of laying eggs by stimulating the female's cloacal orifice with punches to her sides. The string of eggs come out at varying speeds and then stick to the plants, forming strange geometric figures that begin and end at the same point. The largest females can lay up to 7,000 eggs. Away from the erotic hustle and bustle of these couples, a male who had gone off hunting is taking a keen interest in an earthworm. Standing perfectly still and staring at his prey, not taking his eyes off it, he takes position and catches it in a swift movement. Often several tries are needed, but this time the toad's determination, or hunger, win the day. And even if swallowing an earthworm proves a little tricky, the toad succeeds in the end. Continuing our outing into the neighbouring woods, our path soon crosses that of a striking fire salamander. This large Urodela, which is common in Slovenian forests, can grow up to 21 centimetres long. Its body is typically of a slender shape and its head wider than it is long. Its general colouring is black with bright yellow spots or streaks. Our surprise guest seems to be in a hurry or possibly bothered by our presence. The fire salamander makes the most of a bed of fresh moss to sneak into and thus disappears off our improvised stage. The long list of sightings on our journey is far from complete. We are in for many more surprises, as Mother Nature is being particularly generous this evening. And although we didn't really dare hope for it, there, taking a break on a rock, our attention is drawn to yet another salamander. As if born out of the night, or dressed in mourning, the black cloak of this Urodela amphibian leaves us questioning its true identity. In fact, it is a member of an entirely separate species, first described in 1768 by the famous Austrian doctor and naturalist Laurenti. This is an alpine salamander. In Slovenia, this species is the privileged guest of mountainous forests, a habitat it shares with the fire salamander, all the while seeking to avoid it, as the alpine salamander is not fond of sharing. With a maximum length of 16 centimetres, the alpine salamander's body is rather sausage-like and covered in smooth and glistening skin. On its head, which isn't very distinct from the body, stand two clearly visible parotoid glands at the back of its protruding eyes. Two rows of glandular pores are visible along its spine. When feeling threatened, the salamander secretes venom through these pores, producing a frothy whitish liquid which will offend any assailant's taste buds. These salamanders live primarily in mountainous regions, up to an altitude of 2,800 metres. In order to survive the rough conditions in high altitude, they have evolved an ingenious reproductive strategy based on vivipary. Indeed, after a very long gestation period of 3 to 4 years, they usually give birth to 2 young salamanders, which are 4 to 5 centimetres long and absolutely identical to their parents. Their diet is mostly made up of terrestrial invertebrates, such as spiders and insects, that they catch during their nocturnal hunting. Alas, it is now time for us to say goodbye to these nighttime folk, as tomorrow we are to meet Slovenia's most iconic animal. Upon our return to the town of Postonia the next day, the scientists working at the Planinska Jama cave are waiting to lead us on a journey to discover the secrets of the underground world. Half of the Slovenian territory lies on chalkland. The combined effects of hydrochemical and water erosion have transformed it into a topographical landscape named karst. These karstic formations are part and parcel of Slovenian history, as they have over millions of years generated thousands of caves, abysses and underground lakes. This is why the town of Postonia is today known throughout the world for being the cradle of biospeleology, a branch of biology which studies life forms in the subterranean world. The network of caves around Postonia is seen to be the richest in the world in terms of the diversity and number of different animal species discovered there. And amongst all of these living gems that are cave animals, one is of particular interest to us, the White Olm. A large share of Postonia's local economy relies on tourism, and primarily on Slovenia's most visited and well-known cave. Whilst there is much talk of the Slovenian brown bear, especially in France following its introduction into the Pyrenees, the Olm, known here as the human fish, is a superstar in its homeland. In historical terms, the Postonia cave was discovered in the 13th century. Since then, both in Slovenia and across the world, it has rapidly become an unrivalled natural wonder. Today, this cave ranks as the #1 tourist site in Slovenia and has undergone massive touristic planning work in order to better accommodate the thousands of visitors who come each year. Hotels, shops and restaurants are all full to capacity. But just before making our way down into the bowels of the earth, we notice a tour bus on the car park outside the cave, whose logo catches our attention. In order to get to the heart of the cave, you have to ride a small electric train. The convoy goes through a variety of rooms laden with stalactites and stalagmites, and where the air is saturated with damp. In here, the temperature never rises above 10 degrees centigrade. Upon reaching our destination, the flow of tourists follow a marked trail led by a guide. As for us, we are accompanied by a team of biologists and are being led by Slavko Polak, a biospeleologist at the Postonia cave, and are thus given access to an area which is not open to the public. Our footsteps follow a narrow and slippery path, which is poorly visible even with our headlamps on. Around us, limestone concretions of various shapes rise from the ground. These have been crafted by time and water, whose creative genius is expressed through these unexpected works of art. We meticulously prospect every waterhole along the way, but our first attempts are fruitless. As we progress, we grow increasingly anxious about the possibility of coming back empty-handed. But soon our group stops by the entrance to a vast flooded room. With our torches in hand, and through incredibly clear water, we examine every inch of the underwater areas. And it's not long before our scientific guide, Slavko Polak, finds the first White Olm of the day.
This is Stoglocaris, it's shrimp, and that is food for protozoa.
Shortly after, other specimens make an appearance. But we have disturbed the olms with the light from our torches, and they scuttle off to hide under rocks or flat stones. It was in 1768 that the Austrian scientist Laurenti, who had already described the alpine salamander, christened a cave amphibian under the scientific name of Proteus anguinus, with reference both to the antique god of the seas, Proteus, son of Poseidon and Thetis, and to its exclusively aquatic habits. The White Olm can be found in the underground water networks of the Dinaric karst of several countries along the Adriatic coast, from northeastern Italy, via Slovenia, Croatia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina, all the way to the Montenegro border. White olms live in complete obscurity in underground waterways and are to be found anywhere from the surface down to 300 metres deep. They particularly enjoy waterholes of varying sizes with a stable temperature of around 10 degrees centigrade. This Urodela is skin pink in colour and has a very long body, which can measure up to 35 centimetres, with stumpy front and back legs. Its head is almost triangular and ends with a snout shaped like a spade. It is blind and its rudimentary eyes are hard to see. 3 pairs of external gills, with shades varying from light red to blood red, are clearly visible at the back of its head. Its tail represents up to a third of the total length of its body. The white olm moves around slowly, following the contours of its aquatic environment like a snake. But this doesn't mean it is not able to react very quickly, and in the face of danger, the olm is able to make a swift exit. Its diet is made up of aquatic invertebrates, notably cave crustaceans, such as this small blind shrimp. The white olm can live up to 100 years and reaches sexual maturity from the age of 10 or 12 years old. It reproduces at the larval stage, following a process which scientists have named neoteny. The male performs a courtship dance in order to seduce the female and deposits a spermatophore, a small receptacle containing sperm, which is instantly absorbed by the female's vent. Soon after fertilisation, the female lays up to 70 eggs, which she deposits individually or in small bundles by sticking them to the undersides of stones and rocks. It is usually the female, although sometimes the male, who watches over the eggs. They hatch after 90 to 140 days incubation. The white olm will never cease to surprise us. Scientists have recently suggested that there exists not one, but at least 5 different species of olms living across its geographic range. We're even told that a much darker coloured olm can be found at a site 160 kilometres away from here. We thus decide to follow up our fascination for this species and leave Postonia, heading southeast in search of this recently discovered subspecies of olms. On the way, we make a short detour into the humid forest of Kostanjevica. This vast woodland, made up of centenary trees, remains flooded for a significant part of the year. This spring's abundant rainfall has created large marshy areas right in the heart of the forest, where plants such as the water iris grow. A few swipes of our fishing nets tell us what amphibian populations live here. 2 species of newts have already been identified: the oriental alpine newt and the southern common newt. And the least we can say is that they are very numerous in this forest. Oriental alpine newts can grow to around 10 centimetres long at adulthood. It is during the reproduction period that their sexual dimorphism is the most remarkable. The female is greenish, whereas the male will adorn itself with sparkling colours. Its bluish body is punctuated with black dots, and its underside turns bright orange. The female's slightly swollen abdomen indicates that she is gestating, and that soon she will be depositing dozens of eggs, one by one, on the leaves of aquatic plants. Just like reptiles, amphibians regularly change skins, and a female is about to molt. The skin first comes off the tip of the head, and then, by rubbing up against the branches or the stones around her, she gradually manages to extract herself from it, and doesn't hesitate to use her mouth to finish things off. Newts often eat their dead skin, but this female, having been disturbed by an intruder, prefers to abandon it. The southern common newt is a much smaller species and doesn't grow any longer than 9 centimetres. When dressed for courtship, the male takes on airs of a small dragon, with his back and tail crest and his bright colours. His body is greenish, punctuated with black dots, and the lower edge of his long and slender tail is sky blue. His round eyes have a golden iris, crossed by a thick black line. The female, who is always more demure amongst newts, is of a plain greenish colour with a light belly and a yellow longitudinal band. Newts are very common in Slovenia, where they settle in all calm waters wherein there are no fish, their sworn enemy. But this forest has many more surprises to offer, and our nocturnal prospecting is leading us towards new discoveries. A common frog freezes on the spot as we approach. This species features a solidly built body, powerful and muscular legs, a short head and a rounded snout. It's dark brown in colouring, with yellowish sides and a dark temporal mark. Its underside ranges from whitish to reddish. Its big, round and bulging eyes are staring at us with surprise, but also, probably, some concern. The common frog, which can grow to a length of 11 centimetres, can be found in cool environments such as lowland and mountain forests up to an altitude of 2,000 metres. It primarily feeds off invertebrates such as slugs, earthworms and insects, which it captures along its way. But our attention is now drawn to barely audible, plaintive yelping sounds originating a few metres away from us. This distinctive song is typical of a small amphibian we know well. This is the courtship song of the yellow-bellied toad. We meet our first specimen in a puddle in the middle of the forest path. The toad's small size and earthy colouring means it is virtually invisible to anyone who isn't looking out for it, especially when it's sitting in the mud. This toad only grows up to 6 centimetres long. It features a flat body, a rounded snout, and protruding eyes with heart-shaped pupils. Its hind legs are short with webbed feet. Its body is covered with a thick skin covered in fine warts and black spiny points. The top side of its body ranges from beige to a greenish colour. This is a very discreet animal who won't reveal all of its secrets at first glance. In fact, its stomach and the inside of its limbs are splashed with bright yellow. When under threat, it takes an unusual defensive pose by curving its back as high as possible, whilst at the same time showing the yellow markings on the underside of its limbs. This bright colour, which scientists describe as aposematic, acts as a warning for predators. "Beware, I am toxic," is what our yellow-bellied toad is telling any poorly informed assailant. As a lowland species, the yellow-bellied toad seeks out shallow and sunlit areas of water, such as clearings, ponds, ditches or quarries. In order to satisfy its voracious appetite, it feeds off small slugs, insects and earthworms. Leaving the damp forest of Kostanjevica behind us, we continue our journey towards our southern destination, not far from the Croatian border, where we hope to encounter this other population of White Olms, who differ from those at Postonia. This site is located in the rural village of Jelsevnik, where Richard, the guardian of the Olms, is expecting us. Nothing had predestined Richard, a farmer by profession, to take an interest in Olms until the day when a Slovenian scientist discovered a population of black Olms hiding in the waters of a stream located on the farmer's land. Together with the help of his family and friends, Richard has been taking care of these Olms for a good many years now, and allows the more curious tourists to take a look at these strange underground amphibians. The same evening, Richard leads us to a tent which protects the water resurgence where the black Olms live. These animals do not tolerate light and live in obscurity all year round. They only come out at nightfall. We managed to catch a few glimpses of specimens who appear out of the natural cracks in the ground. These Olms swim along the sand and chalk floor, weaving in and out of the stream's rocks. They live in waters whose temperature remains around 10 or 11 degrees all year round. The black Olm lives amidst the shallow karstic formations and comes up to the surface via resurgences, usually in times of heavy rainfalls. It may even venture out as far as flooded grassy meadowland in order to find the insects and earthworms it feeds off. The local inhabitants have known about its existence for a very long time, but they only thought of it as being a dark aquatic lizard. The black Olm was officially discovered in 1986 at the source of the river Dobličica, located a few kilometres away from Richard's property. To date, it has only been identified on 3 sites, all of which are in Slovenia. Scientists only described it in 1994. That is over 200 years after the White Olm of Postonia. Suffice to say, it was quite a discovery. Richard's house has now become a living museum dedicated to the study and protection of black Olms. And thanks to the information boards that have been put together, visitors can learn about the history of the black Olm and the challenges surrounding its protection. We take leave of Richard and of his Olms and aim for the final stage of our journey, Mount Sabotin, which is located on the Italian border, a final stretch of 220 kilometres. Along the way, we stop off by the side of a pond which hosts a population of Italian crested newts. This species can grow up to a length of 18 centimetres and is the largest newt species in Slovenia. Mating season is in full swing, and males have adorned themselves with their brightest colours in order to attract their female counterparts. Females are plainer looking, whilst males are endowed with a spiky dorsal crest. Their heads are marbled with black and white, and the iris of their eyes is copper-coloured. Its long and slender body is of a greenish colour with black dots. Its belly is entirely orange and also dotted with black. Its hind legs end with long toes. Finally, its slim, long tail reflects a magnificent blue and white sheen. The Italian crested newt moves around with great agility along the bottom of shallow ponds and flooded ditches, as well as amongst the thick vegetation of aquatic plants which make up its habitat. It hunts for bloodworms or any other aquatic invertebrates it may come across, either by lying in wait or by seeking them out. Once it has chosen its prey, in this case a common toad tadpole, it slowly gets to a position within reach of its prey and attempts to violently suck it in. Even if this technique doesn't always work first time round, it usually pays off sooner or later. Our journey now takes us to the slopes of Mount Sabotin. Having been the scene of much bloodshed during the First World War, when the Austro-Hungarian army faced the Italian army, the steep slopes of Mount Sabotin also constitute a natural site which harbours exceptional biodiversity. We are interested in one species in particular, the nose-horned viper. The weather conditions are extremely good, and they allow us to quickly identify our first specimen, curled up in the middle of a pile of fallen rocks. Its ability to blend in with its surroundings is startling. Its body is totally grey, but marked with a darker dorsal pattern shaped like a zigzag. The end of its tail is orange. The nose-horned viper can be found across an area ranging from southern Austria to Greece, both in lowlands and in high-altitude terrain. This species, which can be up to a metre long, is instantly recognisable thanks to the soft and flexible horn covered in small scales standing on the tip of its nose. The prominent supraocular scale over its vertical pupil gives it a particularly menacing look which humans fear so much. Should anything bother it, the nose-horned viper will noisily exhale and will not hesitate to bite if necessary. It will inject its venom using 2 hooks which are linked to a venom gland. Because of the quantity and properties of the venom it is able to inject, a nose-horned viper's bite can be fatal for humans. The viper will bite in order to defend itself, but also to catch its prey, which mostly includes small rodents and lizards. Its thick-set build doesn't prevent it from moving across the ground with ease, by using the rocks and boulders to help it along the way. If danger is imminent, the nose-horned viper is able to rapidly disappear amongst the thorny vegetation and screes which cover Mount Sabotin's slopes. Our journey ends here, in these mountains steeped in history, which have not yet revealed all of their secrets. On our way back, a multitude of images are racing through our minds. From the mysterious western whipsnake to the delicate courtship attire of the southern common newt, not to mention the enigmatic olm and the menacing nose-horned viper. All these species have left a lasting impression because of the fascination they aroused in us and of the vulnerability of their existence. Slovenia stands out from most other European countries. It is resolutely looking towards the future, whilst taking care to protect its age-old traditions and exceptional natural heritage. Let's hope it is able to retain this wise and optimistic vision for a long time to come, which makes it an example not only in Europe, but also further afield.